Hey loves, how you doing? Story time. There was a day I left my house early in the morning to go to Nairobi City, and I wanted to buy something, but the shops were not opened at that hour. But this something I wanted to buy was usually sold by hawkers in matatus. So that day, as I walked to the bus station, my heart was like, today, please let those guys who sell this thing come in because I really need it. Ilikuwa Kaluma. I really need it. And that day was different because on any other more day, it usually irritated me when these guys were hawking in the matatu, especially if I'm tired and all I want to do is sit in the matatu and take a nap until my destination because I don't want to be disturbed. I don't want to be sold things that I don't need. Or sometimes, I just want to read something, but these guys are annoying selling this thing. And sometimes they were purely entertaining. Some of them were, sometimes they would come a guy with a voice, and I'm like, life is so unfair because that voice deserves to be on radio, or that voice is meant for other purposes, but this guy is here selling pencils in a matatu sales. Anyway, so this day, no hawker came, and I left that matatu disappointed, knowing that in the big city, I wouldn't know where to buy Kaluma. I didn't know, and I did not want to enter into a supermarket and still it was still early. So the chemist I knew, they were not open. So that day, I carried on my day feeling like, I was disappointed. I really needed that Kaluma because my throat was ew. But either way, I survived. Then, years later, one Sunday morning, I woke up and I wanted to go to church, but I did not know where to go to church. The churches I knew that were in my neighborhood, I was not wanting to go to them. I did not want to go to a Catholic church. I did not want to go to PCA church. I did not want to go to Mutaratara church, if you understand. I wanted a Kigosho church. I wanted Rohomuderu Spirit-filled church. But I did not know where to go to this church. Then, that Sunday morning, as I walked, I just got out of the house and I said, I am walking until I find a church. And that early Sunday morning, I was looking for something that I had grown up hating. Speaker za kanisa. Every time I would be in the house and I heard voices of speakers and projected voices of people praying, of people singing, I'd be like, why are these people praying and it's not Sunday? Why can't these people do something that is not of disturbing the neighborhood or something like that? Why can't these people be, where is Neema when you really need Neema? Like, why can't Neema deal with this nuisance? But that Sunday morning, I was longing for that nuisance because I was like, God lead me to a church, and if you do not lead me to a church, let me hear sounds of a church because that's where I will enter. And so as I walked looking for a church on that Sunday morning, now this is the thing. I had also left home early. It was Sunday. I thought, like, it being an urban area, there will be churches open from 6. But I had left just a little bit earlier, before 8. Most of the churches on my way were closed. And I could see a church and I'm like, God, really? Today, Sunday, it's already 8. That church is not open. Why are they closed? Until from a distance, I started hearing the voices. That thing that I had always considered to be a nuisance. Raba shakatarara, leo tunaomba tunakuabudu. And my spirit was quickened and I was like, oh my God, there it is. Where is it coming from? And I just decided to walk along the road. And after a few minutes, maybe 5 minutes, I found where the noises were coming from, and I entered that church, and that church became my place for maybe my church and my place of worship for about 8 months. It was less than a year. So the other day, the reason for this story is that yesterday, I saw a lady on TikTok. There was a preacher preaching in a matatu, and then this lady was, why do you have to disturb us? Why you can't do this and this? Those questions, maybe back then, if I had the courage to, no, but I think I was cultured. There were things like, you learn to ignore. There are things that if they are not killing you, just ignore and live with them. So yesterday, I was reminded of those instances, the number of times before my salvation, where I would enter a matatu and there is a preacher, and then I pretend to be sleeping, I pretend to be busy on my phone, I avoid listening to and looking at the preacher, because then if they see me looking at them, they will think I'm interested in their preaching. So you look down, you close your eyes, you go through your phone, what does it have to do with you? But now after my salvation, and I remember there was this one particular day, I even wrote down about that day. I called a love notes. This day I woke up feeling so much in love. That day, have you ever been loved? Like, have you ever been loved properly? So that day, I woke up feeling like I'm in love. I was happy. You could not believe, if I told you I slept alone in my bed, you could not believe that I had slept alone in my bed. And I walked whistling. I was also going to Nairobi City. And I entered a matatu. And this matatu, the first thing I found was like Bible verses in the matatu. And I'm reading the Bible verses, and the Bible verses are speaking to me, and I'm like, God, today you have decided. That time in the matatu, sitting in that matatu, and you saw me reading those Bible verses and blushing and smiling all of my own. Oh my God. God is good when you're loved by God. Either way. And then I got to the city. I was going to Jogoo Road. And then I entered another matatu. And this time there was a matatu, a preacher preaching in the matatu. And that guy preached something that I always remember up to today. Like in my life, in my 5 years of salvation, there are sermons that changed my life. There are sermons that have taught me something that I always remember. This sermon from this teacher, this preaching from this preacher changed my life. So I don't remember his name, but he taught something to do with conflict resolution. And throughout that journey, I felt like that guy was sent to preach to me. So I took in the message. When immediately I went home, I opened my Bible. I went through the Bible verses that he had taught out of. And then I remembered some of the teachings that he was teaching, that I even wrote them down. God is awesome. So yesterday I was just reminded, sometimes some of these things you see out here, they might be unnecessary for you. They might be irritating you. But one day, when you really, really need those things and you cannot find them, you will be frustrated. We take it for granted that we live in a country, that we have freedom of worship, that a church can set up tent there and start preaching. A man can just talk with the management of these matatu circles and say, can I be preaching and teaching in your matatus? And they agree and they say, yes, go ahead. Because we have that freedom. Do not take that freedom for granted. Because sometimes God does go silent. I live in a country where I can't evangelize. I live in a country where I can't randomly talk about Jesus to people. I live in a country even before, let me stop, but do not take some of these things that we enjoy back home for granted. Okay?